I'm standing in front of a 150 centimetre diameter red mahogany, and it's just starting to develop the big hollows that many of the larger forest and hollow dependent species in this forest depend on for nest, roost and den sites. In our New South Wales forests here, 16 species of frogs, 31 species of reptiles, 81 species of birds and 46 species of mammals are dependent on these hollows. Decent hollows that are used by the hollow-dependent vertebrate fauna, they take about 120 years to develop. And the big hollows, the hollows in these big red mahoganies, blackbutts and tallarwoods in this forest here, they don't start developing until they're about 220 years old. Since European settlement, the hollow resource in Australian forests has been rapidly declining. There are about 40 species of hollow-dependent fauna that are threatened in New South Wales that are dependent on these hollows. Species like the yellow-bellied glider, greater glider, squirrel glider, many of the microcoropteran bats which use the hollows for maternity sites, species like the yellow-bellied sheath-tailed bat, the eastern long-eared bat, the big owls, the masked owl, the barking owl, the powerful owl and the sooty owl. They all need the big hollow trees, about 200, 300, 400 years old. The issue of the loss of hollow-bearing trees and the hollow resource in northern New South Wales after the 2019-2020 wildfires has really highlighted the accelerating loss of this resource in these forests. And I was able to measure this from the studies that I was doing prior to the fires in 3 territories of barking owls, where I'd been measuring the distribution and size and other attributes of these trees in the centres of the barking owl territories. And when I went back after the fires and measured and looked at these trees again, I found that 23% of these trees over 60 centimetres diameter had been lost. That rate of loss, particularly when you look at the scenarios that are coming out of climate change predictions with more frequent, intense fires, we're going to lose another 20-odd% in the next fires, and that's just unsustainable. It's likely that we could lose all the large hollow-bearing trees and the hollow-dependent fauna that are associated with them within 100 years in these forests unless we take very strong measures to protect the big old hollow-bearing tree resource. Prior to the 2019-2020 wildfires in our state forest, the loss of hollow-bearing trees was covered by a prescription of retaining 8 hollow-bearing trees per hectare. But this was a fundamentally flawed prescription because there were no recruit hollow-bearing trees protected under that prescription. What it meant was that once those 8 hollow-bearing trees had succumbed, there were no hollow-bearing trees coming up to replace them. So it simply wasn't sustainable. The Natural Resources Commission recommended a condition of 8 hollow-bearing trees or 8 large trees be retained and 2 recruit trees per tree. So that's 16 extra trees per hectare in our state forests be retained to really try and address the exponential loss of hollow-bearing trees in our timber production forests. And my understanding is that this recommendation is still being considered at present but it's absolutely crucial that it be taken up